Hey everyone, welcome to the first of a short series of short videos that's going to kind of maybe help you avoid having to study the rulebook for an hour. So first here I just want to show you what the board looks like when it's set up for a two-player game. It's probably the easiest way to look at it. The simplest is a two-player game. Here's kind of how we like to set it up. Nothing surprising here probably. Take the blue cards. It's useful to break them into gender, race, religion. Put them right next to the card stops. There's backstory. I just happen to put the agenda card over here, whatever you're comfortable with. Secrets, the news. Up here near the karma track, it's good. It's useful to put the wonderful blessings and the dirty deals because those do have an effect on karma. I've also got the karma trackers here. You can't put one in the karma track yet because you don't yet know your religion. Up here near the political sentiment circles, I've got a bunch of warm political sentiments, some for the green and some for the gray player. There's a green and gray dice and a green and gray little candidate meeple. I've also put some, being a little hopeful, you put out some victory tokens here so you can mark one states as you choose. Okay, here's the game board in the first move. I mean, each player can go 1 to 3 spaces, but you're never allowed to go through one of these rectangular squares called card stops. You have to draw a card there. So everyone on their first turn is going to pick their gender card. Gray went first. Gray picks, let's say I'm gray. I pick a male card. It says, congrats, dude. If you're actually male, a sexual harassment accusation is lurking in your candidate's past. Nat -1. So if I'm actually male, which I am, I would lose a national level warm political sentiment. Okay, now this is important to learn how to play this part. How do I lose one when there are no national political sentiments here? Okay, well in the two-player game, the way the odds work is me losing a warm political sentiment in this space is the same as my opponent gaining one. The odds will work the same. So the way you can simply track that is just by, hey, I'm the gray player, I've lost, I'm Nat -1, I've lost a national level modifier. That means the country loves my opponent one more than I do. That's the effect we're trying to capture. Okay, so I'm the gray player, I lost a national level modifier. Since there were none of mine to take off, I just gave the green player one. Okay, here we are 2 more turns into the game. The green player gender is female, and then the gray player just moved on ahead to discover what race they were. So I am playing as a gray player. I am now a male Asian candidate. If you look at the effects of the Asian card, the first one is pretty straightforward. You get 25 bucks. That's a pretty good start. The second one is you cons -1. That means you lose a conservative warm political sentiment. Not so popular with the conservative types, I guess. You decide, you debate. But in the game, that's true. All right. Again, we're in this situation where how do I lose a conservative modifier? I don't have any. Well, just like we did over here, if I'm gray and I'm going to lose one of these, that is the same as giving my opponent one. My opponent gets a relative advantage to me. So again, we're going to put a green one, my opponent's color, there. So I'm now disadvantaged in the conservative states. The last effect, pretty straightforward. West Coast +2. I am Asian, so the West Coast, I get a major positive effect to the West Coast. So I just placed 2 of my gray warm political sentiments there. Okay, so the next turn, the green player does the same thing. They go straight to pick their race, and they're Hispanic, and the effects are, so they only get $15, and cons -1, so they lose a warm political sentiment from the conservative states. Okay, kind of makes sense. So we just simply remove their green warm political sentiment. That's nice and straightforward. And then they, in the Southeast region, they get +2 warm political sentiments. Okay. So right now it's maybe a close to even game. You've got gray pretty strong on the West Coast. That's big. That's 74 electoral votes. You've got green very strong in the Southwest. That's pretty big too, 54 electoral votes total. And then of course green's got the national level modifier, which affects the whole board. So it's still up for grabs, folks. Okay, here we are after we've both kind of fully discovered our core identities, our race, religion, and gender. And I'm over here, I'm the gray player, and I'm a little bit out of luck because what happened is my opponent is Jewish, and that's fine. They actually chose to get a little bit of extra money. I totally understand that, so they're way ahead of me on the money pile here. But sadly, I drew the atheist card. This country, not a big fan, so I get hit with a Nat -1, conservative -2. So you can see I'm way behind nationally, and I really don't have a great chance with conservatives. And you'll also notice we've got our karma trackers out. They're placed right in the middle initially. You'll be able to figure out which karma tracker is appropriate for your religion. And what I've done, I've just jumped over here to get my backstory card out. You get one backstory. Hopefully it's a good one. And I'm actually in luck. Turns out I am a male, Asian, good-looking atheist. Okay, and the effect of that is obviously the country loves good-looking folks. So my opponent, I get a Nat +1. I get a national modifier +1. You could do this to account for it. Okay. What we often do, though, is just, instead of doing that, since you've got 2 and I just got 1, I'm going to just take one of yours. Okay, and that just sort of adjusts the relative standing of all these modifiers, of all the warm political sentiments. Okay, a few more turns in. We've got all of our core identities. Both of us have our backstory. I'm unfortunately playing against a sentient AI. I think that's probably an advantage for my opponent. And I just landed on the agenda card stop. And you've got a choice to make. You can draw 3 agenda cards and pick the one you want to pursue. And actually, it's pretty clear to me what my agenda should be. It should be sort of a West Coast focused agenda. That's the only place I've got a real advantage. So I was lucky to pick this card where I have 3 agenda items I can accomplish. One, a goal of winning the state of Oregon. That's possible because I'm +2 warm political sentiment there. Of course, winning the most votes in the West Coast. This is the West Coast region. I basically need to win California. And then finally, if I can, win the most votes in the Western region, which is going to be hard for me to do, given there's a lot of red states here. And my opponent, the Green opponent, has 2 warm political sentiments among the conservatives. Conservatives are not big into this male Asian atheist, but good-looking candidate. At this point, I've got a problem. I'm noticing how bad my karma is. I've lost 2 karmas, and my opponent has gained 1. And the reason I lost 2 is I went to the smoke-filled room twice. I've done 2 dirty deals. I needed money. So I earned $25 for each of those dirty deals. And what did I do? I agreed to make women eligible for the draft, but only the hot ones. That was for $25. Seemed worthwhile for this male. I guess that's what male Asian atheists do. They just do that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to the house of worship to help fix my karma problem. Okay, so I just landed there. And when you go to the house of worship, you've got to check your religion card because you need to practice your religion. And every religion has a different thing you need to do. But if you do it, you need to do it successfully. If you don't do it, you shouldn't go in your house of worship. But I get karma +1. Okay, so I get to fix my karma a little bit. I don't get any money, but I do get a little bonus. And the one I picked says that I can call, so I get my karma +1 if I practice my religion, and to call a regional vote. And it says now. If it doesn't say now, you can do it whenever you want. But it says now, but that means I can call a regional vote. In other words, force all the states in, say, the West Coast to vote right now with the existing warm political modifiers that are in existence, which wouldn't be so bad for me because I've got 2 here in the West Coast, and then all these liberal states have 2 political modifiers in addition to that. I'll go into voting in more detail in another video, but that's how the House of Worship works. Okay, let's talk about voting. The vast majority of the voting will take place towards the end of the game. There might be some situations where you do some voting kind of in the middle of the game, but most of it happens when you land on these voting stars. There's one for the Eastern Zone, Central Zone, Western Zone. I'm gray. I just landed on the Eastern voting star, which means that triggers the vote for the entire Eastern Zone. So the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Southeast regions are going to vote. That's, I don't know, a bunch of states. Okay. If you look at the rules, it tells you that to determine the winner of the state, you need to determine who has the most voter turnout. And that basically is the sum of a dice roll plus whatever warm political sentiments are relevant to the state, plus any karma effects. Okay, karma effects are pretty straightforward. In this case, there are none to the dice roll. There would be, if you had a karma over here where it says +1 or a karma where it says -1, you would add or subtract 1 from your rolls. So really all we have to worry about is a dice roll and adding up the warm political sentiments. So let's look at the Northeast from the perspective of gray first. I'm the gray player. Let's look at Maine. Okay, Maine's a liberal state, a blue state. Let's add up Gray's warm political sentiments. It's in the Northeast, so Gray's got +2 for all of these states. So +2 for Maine, for Gray. And Gray also has +2 liberal warm political sentiments. All right, so total of +4 for Gray. They have 0 national level political sentiments, so total of +4 for Gray. They roll a 2. 2 + 4 is 6. And then Green would roll their dice also. They roll a 6. Okay. What are Green's warm political sentiments? Well, they've got none in the Northeast. Adds 0 there. They've got none for the liberal states. Adds 0 there. But they've got 2 nationally. So they're going to add 2 to their roll. So they get 8 versus Gray's 6. So they win. Green wins. That's because I had such a low dice roll, even though my warm political sentiments were a little bit higher. So hopefully better luck next time for me. Just another example of voting. We've gone down the Eastern Zone. We've taken care of the Northeast. We've taken care of the Mid-Atlantic. We're now on the Southeast. And the Southeast, frankly, is sad for Gray. Green dominates, right? So if you look at North Carolina, Green, if you calculate their warm political sentiments, they've got 2 in the region, all right? They've got 0 for the central states, which North Carolina is, all right? But then they got 2 more national levels. So they're +4 for North Carolina, and then by the same logic, they're +4 for Florida. If you look at Green for these red states here, they're doing quite well. It's going to be very hard for them to lose, though it is possible. So let's take South Carolina, for example. You got these +2 for South Carolina. Red state, +2 more, and of course the national level, which affect everything, +2 more. So the warm political sentiment modifier for Green in South Carolina and Georgia is +6. So with this dice roll here, it's clear that Green would win any of these states because their dice roll is higher and their warm political sentiments are much higher. So that's one more example. The rules have a couple other examples that are worth reviewing. And then one last thing on voting. It's a fair amount. I mean, each state is a dice roll. So if you're not a huge fan of dice rolling, there are variations in the rules to kind of reduce the number of dice rolls. Most people, though, when given that option, I've found, are excited to do the dice roll. It has a little bit of variability in the outcome and unpredictability in the outcome, which people like. I guess that's kind of similar to an actual election. And then you do need to count the total electoral votes, how many each of you have. You can probably get a good sense of who's winning, though, by keeping track of the big states. And you usually don't have to really do a tally until you're kind of through with the central zone, and maybe if somebody has won Texas or California. Then you might want to add it up to see who's closest to 270. But usually no one wins by then. So you'll figure it out, give it some time, and have fun.